This episode is sponsored by our trusted lawyers. If you have any legal queries or require representation, contact Miriam Altaf.
This episode is sponsored by Faraway Pizza. If you'd like to advertise your company, feel free to get in touch.
Wayne Freckleton, also known as Branzino or Zino for short, grew up on a notorious church end estate located on Church Road in Houston, northwest London. Ever since the early 90s, Houston was described to be a popular neighborhood amongst the Jamaican yardies. According to police and the media, the area became a hotspot for drugs and violence. Back in those days, some people called Zino Badger. It's well documented that by the early 2000s, friction between Church Road and Stonebridge was increasing and gang violence within Houston was on the rise. According to paperwork, police believed that Branzino was a leader of Northwest London's Church Road Soldiers, a movement sometimes referred to as CSB
Fresh out
or
of jail,
ICT.
tree-shot ting. Lick a man down, that's a tree-shot ting. Zine, that's a heat-cock ting. Church Road man, that's a C-block.
Brands, attending Copeland Secondary in Wembley, a school now referred to as Ark Elvin. He was expelled from school permanently. Copeland is where he formed a strong alliance with who police later alleged were members of the CRS. There's rumours to suggest that tensions between Church Road and Stonebridge escalated after a member of CRS by the name of Budder was reportedly shot in his belly by a rival member, now deceased. As tensions started to rise in Houston, a close friend of Zino called Cash, who had also attended Copeland, was reportedly shot in the face after a confrontation outside a party in St. Raph's back in January 2002, an event that was said to have left Cash in critical condition. There are continuous reports online to suggest that a man by the name of Mohammed Korne, also known as Shorty, may have been responsible for the shooting. However, it's important to highlight that Mohammed was never convicted of the incident. In the early hours of the 15th of December 2002, at approximately 2 a.m., two gunmen wearing dark clothing entered the Trudeau Rose nightclub in Southall. Ironically, the club was holding an anti-gun crime event at the time. One of the gunmen fired his weapon inside the club, targeting Shorty at the back of the head, while the other gunman ran towards Ensman, firing his weapon and hitting him in the neck. Surlom was found laying in the alleyway next to the club with a gunshot wound to the neck and was pronounced dead at the scene. Shorty, who was shot in the back of the head, was still breathing when the paramedics arrived and was taken to New Ealing Hospital, where he later died from his injuries. A police investigation for the double murder was immediately on the way. Although around 300 people were said to be in attendance on the night of the murders, police came up against a wall of silence. In a 2003 documentary, here is what Surlom's mother had to say.
It's so hard, it's so painful that I wouldn't know how to describe it to you unless you've been through it. 7 of his friends were there. they saw what happened, but nobody is saying anything. I believe the police know who did it, but because they don't have enough evidence, somebody to stand up and say, I was there, I saw what is happening, you did it. The police can't do anything, their hands are tied behind them. And the police have to do more to go to the roots of what is actually happening out there. Instead of the media picking it up and saying another black person has been shot, is drug related. I think it's not fair.
Due to lack of evidence, police were forced to close the case. In April 2005, Zino welcomed a pair of twins. Sadly, his little girl passed away just over a month after. 3 weeks later, on the evening of the 20th of June 2005, a man by the name of Troy Robinson was gunned down while hanging around with his friends on the Stonebridge estate. And after a police investigation, one of their prime suspects was Zino. Zino was arrested, charged with murder, and remanded. However, the case eventually was thrown out due to lack of evidence. As these events were unfolding, members of the CRS were making music. Cash and Zino's music was getting more and more popular. One of their friends who ended up being deported was related to Jamaican dancehall artist Mavado, a certified connection which led to Mavado wanting to sign Cash. On the 25th of April 2008, Zino and his cousin Inch went to Ike's barbershop to get their haircut. The barbershop was only a 4-minute drive away from the Stonebridge Park estate. At approximately 1:30 p.m, as Inch was sitting in the chair, halfway through getting his haircut, 2 gunmen suddenly walked into the busy barbers and started firing. Sadly, Wayne Freckleton, also known as Branzino, was hit with a bullet in the head and was pronounced dead at the scene. He was 25 years of age. A police investigation was on the way immediately. Police were having difficulties with their investigation until they arrested getaway driver Aaron Bernard. Aaron helped the police with their investigation and agreed to testify at trial. Aaron, who admitted driving the Stonebridge affiliates, Femi Ford and Richard Osborne, claimed that he had no idea the duo was going to commit murder. He claimed that he had been tricked into picking him up and used as a getaway driver. Richard, also known as Richie Boo, was already known to authorities. Here is an old video of Richard appearing on a Crime Watch television program.
Richard Osborne is wanted for possession of firearms, including a Scorpion machine gun, which is capable of firing more than 15 rounds a second. He comes from northwest London, but his connections in Bristol and the Midlands. He's 22, and he's known as Richie Boo.
A month after the killing, Femi Ford, also known as E1, called Aaron for a lift to the Queensway shopping centre in Bayswater. Aaron accused Ford of making subtle threats. He said that Ford went on to say that if anyone is talking to the police, I'm going to take care of them. Eventually, Richard and Femi were caught in Birmingham while on a run and were both arrested. Police arrested Anton Richards, also known as AR. It was alleged that he had been in a barbershop and had given the killers the heads up that Zino and Inch were in the barbershop. After a trial at the Old Bailey, Anton Richards was acquitted for his involvement in the murder. However, Femi Ford and Richard Osborne were found guilty of the murder and was both handed a life sentence with a minimum term of 30 years imprisonment. A man by the name of Marcus Siam was also acquitted. The case of Shorty and Ensman was reopened when a drug dealer turned police informant known as Spider from Stonebridge came forward and agreed to give evidence and testify in court for the double murder. Spider, who was facing a life sentence at the time for an unrelated murder, made a deal with the police and agreed to snitch on multiple cases, some of which included his childhood friends, in order to get his sentence reduced. He went on to become London's first black Supergrass. Spider, also known as Darren Maturin, claimed that he was at the Trudeau nightclub on the night of the shooting and witnessed the double murders. He named Shaka Anderson, also known as Cash, and Zino as the killers. The case went to trial even though Zino had passed away a few months before the trial. Members of the jury found Cash not guilty. Today, police believe that Zino's murder was in retaliation to the Trudeau nightclub double murders. Years later, in 2012, Cash was handed a 32-year sentence for his involvement in the death of British presenter Maya Jammer's then boyfriend, Rico Gordon.
He was the nicest person that I've ever met. The first person I'd think about when I woke up in the morning, first person I'd speak to, last person I'd speak to when I went to bed. I don't know, he can make you smile if you're feeling, sad. Even though I was in Bristol and he was in London, it kind of made things better because when we did see each other, we appreciated each other a lot more.
It's been well documented that since the death of Zino, there's been a number of tic-for-tac attacks between Stonebridge and Church Road.
When they turning on dead.
What the fuck?
That was the worst.
Where did they even come from?
Literally, I'm in my yard. I think I was playing FIFA with my boy and someone phoned me. Said, "Brad, I got tears in my eye. I'm glad to hear your crew." I'm like, "What? You're trending." So I got on my Twitter, and I ain't gonna lie, most people be pissed they're trending, but I was like, "Jeez, how much bad bitches care about me?" I ain't gonna lie, I saw a big guy like pissed that I'm dead and shit. Like, I ain't dead, but cool.
Zino Records.
This episode is sponsored by our trusted lawyers. If you have any legal queries or require representation, contact Miriam Altaf.
This episode is sponsored by Faraway Pizza.